Hey, everyone. It's Naomi. Saturday, the day before Easter, the end of getting to the end of Passover, a very intense time in both religions, Judaism and Christianity, which the more I read and learn, the more I am convinced properly understood, at least for me, are in many ways the same religion. Of course, Passover or Pesach, I'm just looking for the dates this year, is, it's in the Hebrew Bible, obviously, and it's in the New Testament. The Passover meal was the Last Supper, the Seder meal, and it's a ritual feast that we celebrate, observe every year to commemorate that we were slaves in Egypt. And it's conducted throughout the world on the eve of the 15th day of Nisan in the Hebrew calendar. It can be March or April, because obviously the Hebrew calendar is different from the Western Roman-based calendar. And in many ways, Passover and Easter kind of align with each other. They're versions of the same ritual, essentially, with some obviously really important differences. In Passover, I've shared with you when we were reading from Exodus, Pesach ends tomorrow, the 20th, and it began on April 12th, and it lasts 8 days in the diaspora, meaning outside of the land of Israel, the Holy Land. And, you recall, if you were following these readings from the Geneva Bible, that Pesach started when the children of Israel were running, racing away from bondage, following Moshe into the Sinai desert, into the wilderness, not knowing what was there. And they were advised to not let their bread rise. Don't use yeast. You don't have time to let it rise. You're running away from Pharaoh's army, and you're running for your lives, basically. So that's why we eat matzah for 8 days. You've seen it probably. It's flat. It's unleavened bread. It's basically flour and water, baked like a kind of a cracker, I suppose, but there's no yeast. It doesn't rise. The children of Israel put their meal and their water on probably the surfaces of rocks in the Sinai desert, or if they had a chance to make a fire, maybe they made a fire out of, brambles or thorns, but they were running, so they barely, had a chance to cook what they were eating. They had to flee Pharaoh and his army. And we have this celebration every year. It's very moving. I find it very, very moving, because it basically says we were all slaves for Pharaoh b'Mitzrayim, with Pharaoh in Egypt. We were all in Egypt, even if we weren't born yet. Obviously, most of us weren't born, most of us weren't there, but spiritually, existentially, we were all enslaved, in a state of slavery, all the Jewish people, slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt for 400 years. And the Lord released us, freed us with a mighty hand, an outstretched hand, and set us on our way to the Holy Land, which is obviously not just a geographical location, right? It's a state of mind, a state of blessedness, a state of, unity with our Creator, ideally living a moral life as He specified, as He requested. So to me, it's just such a profound holiday because, we're still enslaved all over the world. I mean, we've talked about this a little bit with Exodus when we were talking about the first, iteration of the matzah. But the Passover Seder has a ritual platter, and there are various symbolic objects on the ritual platter. And it's kind of mind-blowing to be, celebrating something an event telling a story about something that took place like 3,000 years ago. But there's salt water, which represents our bitter tears when we were slaves. There's the paschal lamb, paschal from Pesach, and it's a lamb shank. It's a bone. You get it from the butcher. And I always was fascinated by this as a little girl. My mom used to singe it over the gas stove burner, very kind of primitive, right? And it would get kind of burned all around, and you put this kind of burned bone of a lamb. Sorry, I'm getting a little mascara in my eye. It's not emotion, it's just mascara. Maybe it's also emotion, but you put that on the plate, and that is a memory of the sacrifice of the firstborn, I believe, and remembering that even our adversaries, lost children and suffered. That we have to have compassion for everybody. There's maror, and that's commemorates the bitterness of our lives. Horseradish. There's kind of apples and honey and nuts, which commemorates the mortar that the slaves used to build the structures that Pharaoh commanded them to build. Many people believe that the children of Israel, and no doubt other slaves as well, worked on the pyramids that were huge memorials to the pharaohs. But they were engaged in bitter labor. And so all of these elements on the Passover platter remind us of that. There's also a green parsley, a sprig of parsley, and that's about renewal, not giving up hope. God always, it's a springtime, obviously kind of a fertility, a renewal, coming back to life kind of celebration. And so the parsley represents, springtime, not despairing, not giving up hope. And there's a hard-boiled egg, and that represents perfection and eternity. So, each of these things has its place during the Passover Seder. There are various moments where we'll talk about the horseradish, or we'll talk about the mortar, represented by the apples and nuts and honey mixed together. We'll talk about the matzah. There are 4 cups of wine. The youngest child will be asked. This is a very adorable ritual, by the way. I highly recommend it, whether you're Jewish or not, to do a version of this at your own celebrations, because it's a wonderful way to get little kids used to asking questions and kind of being kind of public within a family with their curiosity and their authority. But the youngest child will ask the 4 questions. Ma nishtana halayla hazeh kol halaylot? What distinguishes this night from all other nights? And then the table will kind of sing the answer. On this night, we recline at our ease because we're no longer slaves in Egypt. Basically, we eat chametz u'matzah. Chametz is the mortar, and matzah is the matzah. Obviously, it's a way to teach the children. It's really about the generations and about every generation learning this story that you can't take liberty for granted, basically. And any of us could be enslaved at any time, and not to forget the people who are enslaved right now, and also we often get into like, what does it mean to be enslaved? Because we talk about this at the Passover table. Different families celebrate in different ways, but, you can be enslaved through addiction. You can be enslaved through being obsessed with money, or, disorders of various kinds, psychological disorders, neediness, doubt, so many ways human beings can be enslaved, right? Not just in chains, at the mercy of a pharaoh. So it really is a beautiful, important celebration that reminds us never to take liberty for granted. And you can see why there are so many, and I'm sure I mentioned this when we talked about Exodus, but just to see that through line throughout history. So many Negro spirituals and songs that slaves sang in the fields, in America, the American slaves, right, enslaved people, use that metaphor of we're the children of Israel and we are in bondage, but the Lord is going to liberate us. We have faith that there, freedom will come. Oh, freedom, freedom over me. Before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. The words of Negro spirituals. And it's understandable that these enslaved people, when they were learning, from the Bible and about the Hebrew Bible and about Christianity, would resonate with this story of enslaved people just like them who eventually were freed and reached the promised land. So the reason I bring this up is Yeshua was, of course, Jewish, and I've been reading this, pardon me, which is Jewish New Testament, and I'm not going to get ahead of myself here because we're only at Leviticus, but it's really worth reading, whether you're Christian or Jewish or atheist or agnostic or Buddhist or Muslim, to remember the Jewish context of Yeshua, of Jesus in his lifetime, that he was a Jewish rabbi talking mostly to Jews, also to Gentiles, to non-Jews, about how to go back to the essence of what God wanted and how to cut through the kind of corruption of legalistic interpretations of what God wanted and go back to, just pure love of God, pure devotion to God, just doing what God, the simple things God asks, not getting wrapped up in irrelevant details or showing off, one's devoutness and so on. And I bring this up, of course, because, yesterday was Good Friday. Tomorrow is Easter Sunday, and all over the world, Christians will be celebrating the resurrection of this Jewish rabbi who was crucified, a real historical figure. Almost all the sources agree Yeshua really did exist. He was a real rabbi in, Roman-occupied Palestine, Judea, I should say. He really existed. He really preached. He really taught. He really healed. And the New Testament, which this writer, David Stern, argues is a continuation of the story told in the Hebrew Bible. And I'm kind of increasingly persuaded of that, but is the story of a Jewish man with his talmidim, is the Hebrew word. And many critics believe that, or scholars believe that the New Testament was originally written in Hebrew or Aramaic, or versions of it were. There's debate about this. I'm not saying, we know for sure, we don't. But the Last Supper was a Passover Seder. And all the things you'd expect at a Passover Seder were happening. Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf, and I have a message. President Trump is in the process of what he calls draining the swamp. But many in the MAGA movement and the MAHA movement are asking if he'll expose the entire pandemic. There's enough public evidence for people to be concerned who injected themselves in what has turned out to be a massive experiment. If you were compelled to get the shot for work, travel, maybe you just trusted the system, check out this natural solution formulated by hero doctor Peter McCullough in collaboration with the wellness company. They just leveled up their original detox formula, and it cost $30 less. We are introducing the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox. It's now conveniently consolidated into a single capsule with 4 times more nattokinase, 500 milligrams of bromelain, and 500 milligrams of turmeric root extract. Nattokinase, an enzyme researched for its anti-clotting effects, may work to break down spike proteins. Combined with bromelain and curcumin, it provides a potent blend for detoxification and cellular support. Crafted with 100% natural ingredients, Ultimate Spike Detox is backed by research. It offers effective support for your cell's natural repair and recovery. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. Peter McCullough, a top freedom-fighting doctor who risked it all to bring you the truth. Head over to dailyclouthealth.com and use the code DailyClout to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, that's dailyclouthealth.com and use the code DailyClout to get 10% off and get back to that pre-COVID feeling. At the Last Supper, they were celebrating or commemorating, Jesus and Judas, and all the disciples. Talmidim, the students, were celebrating, commemorating the children of Israel leaving slavery. And then you get this very intense symbolism. And I am moving ahead a little bit in history, but it's Passover, it's almost Easter. You need to know about this. The Paschal lamb, the symbolic bone, which represents the sacrificing of animals at the temple. And this is what we're reading about right now in Leviticus, right? How you sacrifice your sheep, your goat, your doves. At the temple doesn't exist yet. They haven't gotten to, the Holy Land yet. They're still in the desert, but you sacrifice the animals at the tabernacle, right? The place of meeting at this point. But in this incredible intervention in human history, if you're Christian, you believe this, or maybe even if you're Jewish or atheist or agnostic, and you just think Yeshua's extraordinary in some way, this intervention in human history substitutes Yeshua dying on a cross, which apparently he really did, right? I mean, he really was put to death. I mean, the Romans were crucifying a bunch of people then. I mean, the hills of Judea or Jerusalem were covered with crosses. It wasn't an unusual way to murder a political prisoner, which is what Yeshua was. But this is an occupied country, right, with a simmering rebellion of Jews, seeking to overthrow the occupiers who were, despoiling the temple and not allowing the children of Israel to kind of worship the way they wanted to, forcing them to kind of acknowledge other gods, human gods, which is totally anathema to Jews, right? There's only God. But Yeshua became kind of inscribed in Christian history subsequently as the Paschal Lamb, right? And you see this, and in churches all over the West, in stained glass windows, in paintings, the Lamb, which is Jesus, bearing the cross, the Lamb of God. So this symbolism of the Lamb, the sacrifice, comes from this ancient feast, that we've been celebrating, we Jews, for the last 7 days. And it comes from, it descends from these chapters that we're reading right now in Leviticus 4, Leviticus 5, Leviticus 6, all about how do you sacrifice? What is a sacrifice? How do you bring your spirit to God? And what do you do, especially what do you do if you've sinned, right? And so in Christian iconography and theology, especially as the centuries move on, the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, you get a lot of elaboration of kind of Jesus as the sacrifice, right? And by the way, he didn't. The New Testament doesn't say that, right? The New Testament doesn't say, "I'm about to die for your sins," but subsequently, this is the theology, right? And I'm not saying it's true or not true. I'm just saying historically the idea that Yeshua is the sacrificial lamb And because he died, like the lambs and sheep we're about to read about in Leviticus, we've been washed, or his followers are, washed in the blood of the Lamb, is the phrase in the church and later Christian theology, and all sin is washed away by his sacrifice. So you've got to understand that language comes from somewhere, and it's a version of Judaism, right? It's not the same as Judaism because we don't have that, right? In the same way, as you'll see, we don't have a human being sacrificing himself in the Hebrew Bible, although we'll get to Isaiah and the suffering servant. But we do have sacrifice, and we do have lambs that are slaughtered, and they are slaughtered for sin, for atonement, lekaper. You know that word, the same root as Yom HaKippurim, right? Yom Kippur, to atone for sin. So that's my little preamble. It's a very profound time of year to be reading this. I think it's kind of amazing that we happen to be reading about the sacrifice of lambs and sheep. Eyal is a sheep. And that we're reading about it, right at the day before this. Well, I guess Good Friday, yesterday, was the sacrifice of Yeshua, right? The Lamb of God. And then the resurrection is tomorrow. So that's pretty mind-blowing. So let's read in Leviticus, what do we do about sin, right? Because there are very clear instructions, and it's going to kind of blow your mind what, the detail with which Adonai, God, is kind of specifying in Leviticus 5, which we're about to read, what is a sin, right? And it's not what you'd think. Like, we haven't gotten to the big ones yet, but they're still big, right? He's not talking in Leviticus 5 about adultery or murder, but there are things that we just want to sweep under the rug, kind of fibbing, kind of cheating, kind of being dishonest, finding things and not returning them, even, that we may think, well, it's just a white lie, or it's a sin of omission, or it's not a big deal, or God is busy. No, ladies and gentlemen, no, do not think that, right? And I actually find it quite reassuring to, have these very clear directions from Adonai about kind of how we should handle our lives, because there's no ambiguity. Mark Palermo says misdemeanors. And I would really say, I'll read the chapter, right? But that's not how they're treated. In other words, you'll see from this chapter that God really doesn't like slackers and equivocators, right? Like, be all in, right? And so the little lies are very serious. Like the little cheating, the not returning that sweater that you found because you think it's really cute. It's not okay with God, right? And again, not in a punitive way, but in a, be aligned with me. We're better than that kind of way. So nothing is trivial. Exactly. That's exactly it. So I should stop talking about it and just start reading it. So you can go ahead and go to Leviticus 5 in the 1560 Geneva Bible. And let's go ahead. And there's now a lot of PDFs, which is kind of wonderful. So if you can't afford the giant 1560 Geneva Bible that is physical, by all means, download a free PDF or just to open it. All right, chapter 5 of him, and this is the subheadline, and this is the Geneva Bible, the Founders Bible, the Puritans Bible, and then, of course, as always, we'll read Chabad in Hebrew, and then we'll take a look at the Revised Standard Version. So the subheadline by the editors says, of him that testifies not the truth, if ye hear another swear falsely, of him that vows rashly, of him that by ignorance withdraws anything dedicate to the Lord. And then the text begins. Also, if any have sinned, that is, if he have heard the voice of an oath and he can be a witness, whether he has seen or known of it, if he do not utter it, he shall bear his iniquity. Either if one touch any unclean thing, whether it be a carrion, meaning the carcass of an unclean beast, or a carrion of unclean cattle, or a carrion of unclean creeping things, and is not ware of it, yet he is unclean and hath offended. Either if he touch any uncleanness of man, whatsoever uncleanness it be that he is defiled with, and is not ware of it, and after comes to the knowledge of it, he has sinned. Either if any swear, and meaning like not swear like bad words, but swear like, by God, I'll do this or that, right? If any swear and pronounce with his lips to do evil or to do good, whatsoever it be that a man shall pronounce with an oath, and it be hid from him, and after knows that he has offended in one of these points, when he has sinned in any of these things, then he shall confess that he has sinned therein. Therefore shall he bring his trespass offering. I want you to pay attention to that word, trespass offering, because, as I've been explaining in these chapters, so a lot of these words in Hebrew are not exactly the same as sin in the Christian modern translations, right? Which is a very heavy word. But chet could be like right? Or trespass, make a transgression, right? So it's like definitely a mistake, right? You definitely don't want to do it. God doesn't like it, but it's not like, oh my God, I'm going to hell, right? It's definitely like, and this is why I think, Judaism can be quite useful for people, including Christians who are part of the Jewish story, because it's very practical. If you've trespassed, there are things you do right away to correct that. You're not like, oh my God, I might as well just keep sinning because I'm going to hell anyway. All right. So therefore he shall bring his trespass offering unto the Lord for his sin, which he hath committed, even a female from the flock, be it a lamb, the Lamb of God we were just talking about, or a she-goat for a sin offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for him concerning his sin. But if he be not able to bring a sheep, and the implication is he can't afford it, right? He shall bring for his trespass, which he hath committed, two turtle doves, or two young pigeons unto the Lord, one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. So he shall bring them unto the priest, who shall offer the sin offering first, and wring the neck of it asunder, but not pluck it clean off. After he shall sprinkle the blood of the sin offering upon the side of the altar, and the rest of the blood shall be shed at the foot of the altar, for it is a sin offering. Also he shall offer the second for a burnt offering, as the manner is. So shall the priest make an atonement for him, for his sin which he has committed, and it shall be forgiven him. But if he be not able to bring two turtle doves or two young pigeons, meaning he can't afford that either, then he that has sinned shall bring for his offering the 10th part of an ephah, and that's a measurement, of fine flour for a sin offering. He shall put none oil thereto, no oil, neither put any incense thereon, for it is a sin offering. Then shall he bring it to the priest, and the priest shall take his handful of it for the remembrance thereof, and burn it upon the altar with the offerings of the Lord made by fire, for it is a sin offering. So the priest shall make an atonement for him as touching his sin that he has committed in one of these points, and it shall be forgiven him, and the remnant shall be the priest's as the meat offering. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, if any person transgress in sin through ignorance, by taking away things consecrated unto the Lord, he shall then bring for his trespass offering unto the Lord a ram without blemish out of the flock, worth 2 shekels of silver, by your estimation, after the shekel of the sanctuary, for a trespass offering. So he shall restore that wherein he has offended, in taking away of the holy thing, and shall put the 5th part more thereto. He'll add a 5th in addition, and give it unto the priest. So the priest shall make an atonement for him with the ram of the trespass offering, and it shall be forgiven him. Also, if any sin and do against any of the commandments of the Lord, which ought not to be done, and know not, and sin, and bear his iniquity, then shall he bring a ram without blemish out of the flock, in your estimation worth 2 shekels, for a trespass offering unto the priest. And the priest shall make an atonement for him concerning his ignorance, wherein he erred. Remember, I was talking about the language. It's not sin, it's an error, right? He erred. His ignorance wherein he erred and was not aware. So it shall be forgiven him. This is the trespass offering for the trespass committed against the Lord. I kind of want to go on one more chapter. I'm going to. I hope that's okay. Chapter 6, the offering for sins which are done willingly. The law of the burnt offerings, the fire must abide evermore upon the altar. The law of the meat offering, the offerings of Aaron and his sons. That's the subheadline. And now the text starts. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, if any sin and commit a trespass against the Lord and deny unto his neighbor that which was taken him to keep, or that which was put to him of trust, or does by robbery or by violence oppress his neighbor, or has found that which was lost and denies it and swears falsely, for any of these things that a man does wherein he sins, when I say he thus sins and trespasses, he shall then restore the robbery that he robbed, or the thing taken by violence, which he took by force, or the thing which was delivered him to keep, or the lost thing which he found. Or for whatsoever he has sworn falsely, that means, lied basically about something, he shall both restore it in the whole sum, and shall add the 5th part more thereto, and give it unto him to whom it pertaineth. He'll give it to the person it belongs to, and add a 5th more. The same day that he offers for his trespass. The same day, you guys, the same day, you don't sleep on it. Also he shall bring for his trespass unto the Lord a ram without blemish out of the flock, in your estimation worth 2 shekels, for a trespass offering unto the priest. And the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Lord, and it shall be forgiven him whatsoever thing he has done and trespassed therein. Then the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, command Aaron and his sons, saying, this is the law of the burnt offering. It is the burnt offering because it burns upon the altar all the night unto the morning, and the fire burns on the altar. And the priest shall put on his linen garment, and shall put on his linen breeches upon his flesh, and take away the ashes when the fire has consumed the burnt offering upon the altar, and he shall put them beside the altar. After he shall put off his garments and put on other raiment, meaning clothing, and carry the ashes forth without the host, meaning outside of the camp, away from the people, unto a clean place. But the fire upon the altar shall burn thereon and never be put out. Wherefore, for that purpose, the priest shall burn wood on it every morning and lay the burnt offering in order upon it, and he shall burn thereon the fat of the peace offerings. The fire shall ever burn upon the altar, meaning forever, and never go out. Also, this is the law of the meat offering, which Aaron's sons shall offer in the presence of the Lord before the altar. He shall even take thence to that place his handful of fine flour of the meat offering and of the oil and all the incense which is upon the meat offering, and shall burn it upon the altar for a sweet savor, as memorial therefore unto the Lord. And you remember we talked about the sweet savor. Reach nechoach. But the rest thereof shall Aaron and his sons eat. It shall be eaten without leaven, meaning no yeast, in the holy place, in the court of the tabernacle of the congregation. They shall eat it. It shall not be baken with leaven. I have given it for their portion of mine offerings made by fire, for it is as the sin offering and as the trespass offering. All the males among the children of Aaron shall eat of it. It shall be a statute, like a law, forever in your generations, concerning the offerings of the Lord made by fire. Whatsoever touches them shall be holy. Again, the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, this is the offering of Aaron and his sons, which they shall offer unto the Lord in the day when he is anointed. The 10th part of an ephah, that measurement of fine flour, for a meat offering perpetual, half of it in the morning and half thereof at night. In the frying pan it shall be made with oil. You shall bring it fried and shall offer the baked pieces of the meat offering for a sweet savor, reach nechoach, unto the Lord. And the priest that is anointed in his stead among his sons shall offer it. It is the Lord's ordinance forever. It shall be burnt altogether. For every meat offering of the priest shall be burnt altogether. It shall not be eaten. Furthermore, the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, and say, This is the law of the sin offering. In the place where the burnt offering is killed, shall the sin offering be killed before the Lord, for it is most holy. The priest that offers this sin offering shall eat it. In the holy place shall it be eaten, in the court of the tabernacle of the congregation. Whatsoever shall touch the flesh thereof shall be holy. And when there drops of the blood thereof upon a garment, you shall wash that whereon it drops in the holy place. Also the earthen pot that it is sodden in, meaning soaked in, shall be broken. But if it is sodden in a brazen brass pot, it shall both be scoured and washed with water. All the males among the priests shall eat thereof, for it is most holy. But no sin offering whose blood is brought into the tabernacle of the congregation to make reconciliation in the holy place shall be eaten, but shall be burnt in the fire. And that is the end of chapters 5 and 6. Wow. So, before we go on to the Hebrew, reflect on that with me. To me, it's really interesting, right? Like, what is sin? It's so not what we're taught, right? I mean, in these chapters, as I've said before, God doesn't need our burnt meat, right? God doesn't need our ephah, which is a measurement of, flour, our matzah, our oil, our turtle doves. God doesn't need them. But you really have this sense from this ritual that it's for humans. Humans need to take steps, often ritualistic steps, because we're so flawed and we like to be in denial and forget what we've done or rationalize it. But humans really need these ritualistic steps to face what they've done, right? And to think very concretely, oh, wow, I really kind of cheated my neighbor. I need to bring 2 turtle doves to the priests. I blew it. I messed up. I trespassed. God told me exactly what he wanted. He wanted me to face it when I did something that was wrong, not kind, not just, not fair, not tzaddik, right, which is righteous, unrighteous. And these things seem kind of trivial, but, again, they're not. They're not misdemeanors. As Mark Palermo said, nothing is trivial. And to God, they're not trivial, right? You swore falsely. How many times a week do we swear falsely, right? I try never to lie. Because, partly because I've read parts of the Hebrew Bible, and it's pretty serious. You're not supposed to lie. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You don't, there's no such thing as a trivial lie, according to the Hebrew Bible. Yahweh is very clear about that. And I love what Mark Palermo just said, routines for corrective accounting. Exactly. This is corrective accounting. That's really well said. But the beauty of it is in the relief, right, for humans, and in kind of the relief for God too. Like, God doesn't want us, obviously, the story all along until this point, Leviticus 5 and 6, is God wants to be close to us, right? That's the story. God wants to be close to us, in a community with us, in which we're not messing up, because that's how he can be close to us, if we are more like him than not. And the relief, you feel it at the end of this chapter, the relief goes both ways. There's the relief for the person who really faced what he or she did over the course of the last week or month, and like dealt with it and dealt with it in a very concrete way, going into your flock, which is your money, right? It's like going to your bank account at that time, taking a sheep without blemish, meaning a sheep that is not a runt or diseased, right? Meaning a real sacrifice, something you're really genuinely offering up to God that has value to you, not value to God, value to you, right? Saying, for real, I'm thinking about you, God. I'm not just going to buy carnations at a grocery store on my way home. I'm going to really go get the flowers that I know you like. I know you love peonies. I'm going to, they cost $50. I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to bring you the peonies that I know you like. That's what the eyal without blemish means. It means something you could sell and you could keep the money. But you're saying, God, I messed up. I want to be close to you. Here, have this beautiful, lamb, this beautiful sheep. And also relief, you feel it from God, like, okay, I can be in their hearts again. I can be close to them again because they've cleaned up their mess, right? And that brings us closer, and that brings us into a state of blessing. So, and Mark Palermo says the debt is forgiven. Thank you, Mark. This is also what I really wanted you to hear. And again, it's kind of a revelation for me, reading it. Maybe I've read it before, but I definitely was skimming it, sitting in synagogue, restless as a child, waiting to get out and see my friends, right? I didn't read it carefully. And it's the emphasis in these chapters, it sounds like it's about sacrifice, but it's really about forgiveness, right? And you hear that over and over. And we'll look at the Hebrew words that are being used for forgiveness, lekaper and nislach, right? And I talked about lekaper is the same root as atonement, like Yom Kippur, and nislach is to really to forgive. Like literally, when you bump into someone in modern Hebrew, you say slicha, forgive me, pardon me. So it's a very again, I really want to stress, kind of in contrast to maybe Catholicism, this kind of dance of offense or trespass and slicha, or kippurim, right, is very ordinary. It's very everyday. It's not like, I'm going to go to hell and I have to be forgiven in order to not go to hell, right? It's not that kind of all is lost kind of thing. It's really something you do, which is why I love what Mark Palermo said, corrective accounting. You're supposed to do it like every day, right? If you don't do it every day, you do it every week. If you don't do it every week, for God's sake, do it at Yom Kippurim, do it once a year, right? But it's really down to earth, right? And God is always right there waiting, lekaper and lisloach, to, atone us. There's really no verb in English, the active sense of to make atonement with us, for us, and lisloach, to forgive. So now let's look at the Hebrew. It's got such beautiful language that I want to call your attention to. So this is chapter 5 in the Hebrew. The nefesh, and a soul, a spirit, right? It's translated as a person, but it's the nefesh, a soul. Ki techeta, who techeta, creates a sin. V'sham'a kol Allah, and he is a witness. V'hu ed, and he witnessed it, or ra'a, or saw, or yada, or knew, im lo yagid, and he doesn't say, ve nasa ono. And this is such an interesting verb, venasa ono, and he will carry his on, is transgression, right? And again, it's a different word than chet, which is an error, a sin, translated often as sin. So these are, on, chet, they're different words, but they're multiple words because people suck, right? They're multiple words for doing things wrong, right? But they're not like, oh my God, I'm lost, right? And I want to, also go over a little bit this touching the uncleanness in Judaism, especially Orthodox Judaism, which obviously, descends from this scripture. You're really not supposed to touch. You're unclean if you touch a dead body, an unclean animal like pigs or shellfish. And women who are menstruating create uncleanness, and it's nothing against women. It's just there are conditions of things that are considered unclean. You have to stay healthy and well at times like this. You know that I often have suffered from mobility issues, and now I don't. Part of my lifestyle is Native Path collagen. So Native Path's collagen formula is made with ingredients that are scientifically developed to increase bone mineral density, support tissue recovery, reduce wrinkles, enhance hair thickness, and strengthen nails. Who wouldn't want more collagen with all of these benefits? So right now, when you visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout, you can stock up on Native Path collagen for up to an incredible 45% off today, plus free shipping. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee. You can try it risk-free today. It is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners, and it's third-party tested for heavy metals, which makes sure that it's pure and safe. It's flavorless. You can add it to anything. I add it to my oatmeal. You can add it to coffee or smoothies. Its formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes without clumping. And the best part is Native Path is offering amazing bundle deals, 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice, and they offer an 800 number. You can ask any question. A real person is waiting to help. You can join a private Facebook community. I love these people. Share recipes, success stories. So that's getnativepath.com/dailyclout and start your experience of transformation today. And you're supposed to clean yourself in various ways when you come in contact with uncleanness. All right. But here they're saying you can inadvertently become defiled by coming in contact with uncleanness. You might not know, but if you find out, you've got to clean it up. Right. And the translation is he has incurred guilt, right? If he touches the uncleanness of a human with any uncleanness through which he may become defiled, and it is hidden from him, and later he knows, he has incurred guilt. And here's this interesting word, asham. So it's ochi iga, or if he touches betumat adam, the uncleanness of a human, Adam, the same root as Adam, right? Adam, lechol tum'ato, to all the uncleanness, asher yitma, by which he will be made unclean. You're hearing the repetition, ba ve'nelam mimeno ve'huyada ve'ashem. And it's invisible from him, right? And he knows ve'ashem. And he has incurred guilt is how it's translated, but it's more like an active verb. He has guilted, right? And again, it's this everyday kind of, I've guilted, right? I'm in a state of guilt. Let me purify it, okay? And o nefesh, or a soul, ki tishva, who swears, lebate bishvatayim, expressing with his lips, lehara, to do evil, or lehitiv, or to do good, lechol asher yevate, to all of which a man may express in an oath, ha'adam bishvu'a vene'elam mimeno, and it is hidden from him, it's invisible to him, v'huyada, and he finds out, ve'ashem la'achat me'ele. And again, that word, Ashem, and there's guilt in one of all of these, right? And so there are a lot of ways you can incur guilt, right? But it's very everyday. I'm sorry to repeat it, but I really want you to hear it. V'haya ki yesham, and it shall be when someone guilts, le'achat me'ele, from one of these, v'hit vada, asher chata aleha, he shall confess the guilt, the sin which he's committed. Vehevi et ashamo, you're hearing the echoes, and he'll bring the guilt. Now, it's translated as guilt offering, but it's literally his guilt, et ashamo le'adonai. So he's literally bringing his guilt to God. Al chatato, for his sin, asher chata, which he sinned, nikeva min hatzon, a female from among his sheep, kishba o seirat izim lechatat v'chiper alav hakohen machatato. And I really hope you're hearing the echoes. A female from the flock, either a sheep or a goat, for a sin offering, and the Kohen shall make atonement from his sin. I'm going to read that again. V'chiper alav, there's that word, kiper, chiper, kippurim. He'll atone on him, the priest, from his sin. Okay, so it's an active thing. The priest is atoning for him. On him. If you make a mistake, the priest will atone on you, right? There's nothing exactly parallel in English or Christianity or Catholicism. Kind of this active, okay, I'm atoning on you. You're being atoned on. And then let's go past what happens to the turtle doves, the young doves, and then v'chiper alav hakohen, and again the Kohen will atone on him, al chatato, on his sin, asher chata, which he sinned, me'achat me'ele, from one among all of these, v'nislach lo, and will forgive him. He shall be forgiven. V'haita lekohen kamincha, and it will be to the Kohen as a meal offering. V'yidaber Adonai el Moshe le'emor, and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, nefesh ki tim'ol, a spirit who commits a betrayal, ma'al v'chata'a bishgaga mikadshe Adonai, and he trespasses unintentionally against kadshe Adonai. You remember this word kadosh, from the holy things of God. Vehevi et ashamo, and he brings his guilt, right, to God, le'adonai, translated as sin offering or guilt offering, but it's just he brings his guilt to God. Eyal tamim, an unblemished ram, a perfect, pure ram, min hatzon, from the flock, be'er kecha kesef shkalim, b'shekel hakodesh le'asham, with a value of silver shekels in accordance with the shekel of the sanctuary for a guilt offering. And you hear this echo of asham, asham, asham. Ve'et asher chata min hakodesh, and that which he sinned or trespassed against from among the holy things. What is that, right? Maybe the commandments. Yeshalem. It's translated as he shall pay, but you've heard this word shalem. It's the same root as shalom. And it means, mushlam, and it means perfect or full or complete, right? All these senses. Beautiful word. And yeshalem is translated as he shall pay, but it's really like he shall make it full. He shall make it perfect. He will make it whole, right? So at every chance you get to make it right. You get to atone. You get to correct what you did wrong. You get to perfect the imperfection. Ve'et chamishto Yosef alav v'natan oto lekohen, and a fifth of it he will add and give it to the Kohen. V'hakohen yechaper alav, and the Kohen will atone on him. Be'ayal hasham, through the ram, the guilt, v'nislach lo, and will pardon him. All right, so there's pardoning and pardoning. Ve'im nefesh, and if a soul, ki techeta, who will sin, ve'asta achat, and he does one michol mikol mitzvot, from all of the commandments, Adonai, of God, asher lo ta'asena, which you shouldn't do them, ve'lo yada, and he didn't know, ve'ashem, ve'nasa ono, and he asham, and he guilted, ve'nasa, and he carries his transgression. He bears it up, right? And that's how we carry our transgression when we don't repent, when we don't correct it, right? It's not really repentance. It's like correction, right? It's making it right. We carry it, right? It doesn't go nowhere. It's heavy. Vehevi a ayel, and he'll bring a ram tamim, unblemished, min hatzon, from the sheep, be'erkecha, le'asham, with the value of a guilt offering or guilt, el hakohen, to the priest, ve'kiper alav, and he'll atone on him, hakohen, the priest, al shgegato, his unintentional sin, asher shagag, which he committed and didn't know. There's a word for unintentional sin. I didn't know that. Shegaga, which he unintentionally committed. Vehu lo yada, and he didn't know. Venislach lo, and he will be pardoned. He'll be forgiven. Asham hu oshem asham ladonai. I'm going to read that again. This is so beautiful. It's 3 times asham. Asham hu, asham, asham ladonai. Guilt, it is guilty of guilt to God, right? It's guilt all over the place, so much guilt, but you're going to be forgiven if you just mushlamoto, right? If you just make it right, make it perfect. V'yidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, and God spoke to Moses saying, Nefesh ki techeta, a spirit, a soul who sins, u'me'ala ma'al be'Adonai, and falsely denies to his fellow concerning a deposit or money given in hand, v'chichesh be'amito, בפיקדון או בתשומת יד או בגזל או ashak et amito, or money given in hand, or an object taken by robbery, or he withheld funds from his fellow, right? Business practices, or he found a lost article and he denied it. O matzah, or he found aveda, something lost, vechechesh ba, and denied it. Venishba, and swore al shaker, on a lie, al achat mikol asher ya'aseh, on one of those which will do ha'adam, the man, lecheta behena, to sin in it. Ve'haya ki yecheta, and it was when he has sinned, ve'ashem, and he's guilty, ve'heshiv et hagzela, and he shall return the article, asher gazal, which he robbed, right? O et ha ashek, asher ashak, or the funds which he has withheld, o et ha pikadon, asher hafkad, or the item which has been deposited with him, and lefaked is to kind of to put something at someone's duty or responsibility, right? Ito, or with him, or eta avida, or the lost thing, asher matzah, which he found. Like literally, you can't keep something you found without trying to find the person who owns it. O mikol asher yishba, or on anything else regarding which he has sworn falsely, alav, lasheker, on it, to the lie, ve'shilamoto, he shall pay it, with its principal, berosho, literally in its head, vechamishtav, and a fifth of it, Yosef, he'll add alav, on it, le'asher hu lo yitnenu beyom ashmato, to le'asher hu lo yitnenu, he'll give it to its rightful owner on the day of his guilt. B'yom ashmato, that same word, ashema. So don't sleep on it, right? You don't even wait one day. If you've got something that doesn't belong to you, you have to take it back and give it to the person to whom it belongs. Ve'et ashamo, and then his guilt, yavi l'Adonai, he'll bring it to God. Ayel tamim, a ram that is pure, min hatzon, from the sheep, ve'erkecha le'asham el hakohen, with the same value, asham, for guilt, to the Kohen, ve'kiper alav, and he'll atone on him, hakohen lifnei Adonai, before the Kohen, in front of God, v'nislach lo, and he shall be forgiven, pardoned to him, al achat mikol asher, on one, from all that asher yaseh, all the things that you can do, le'ashma, to the guilt, ba, that you can be guilty with, basically. And I really hope you're hearing the repetition. The repetition of you'll be forgiven. Just make it right. You'll be forgiven. Just return the thing. You'll be forgiven. Just don't keep it. You'll be forgiven, right? Very practical. So I'm not going to go through chapter 6 again because it's pretty straightforward. But I will now go to Leviticus Revised Standard Version. Well, we're getting lots of people. And I'm just going to read you a couple of sentences. I always get sad when we go to Leviticus, to the Revised Standard Version, because I do find, as you know, the language often kind of consistently so distant, and taking that intimacy and immediacy and making it very abstract and pedantic and off-putting. So Leviticus 5, if anyone sins in that he hears a public adjuration to testify, and though he is a witness, whether he has seen or come to know the matter yet does not speak, he shall bear his iniquity. Or if anyone touches an unclean thing, he shall be guilty. Or if he touches human uncleanness, he shall be guilty. Or if anyone utters with his lips a rash oath, it is hidden from him, he shall in any of these be guilty. When a man is guilty in any of these, he shall confess the sin he has committed, and he shall bring his guilt offering to the Lord for the sin which he has committed, a female from the flock, a lamb or a goat for a sin offering, and the priest shall make atonement for him for his sin. Now, let's remember what it says in Hebrew. It doesn't say the priest will make atonement for him for his sin. That's a mistranslation that it so consistently puts the priest between the human being, any ordinary human being, and God. And that is not what it says in Hebrew. You remember what it says. The priest atones on him, lekaper alav, atones on him, right? So there's no intermediary. The priest isn't doing anything to God that the person isn't able to do himself, basically. I remember I keep saying in the Hebrew, the priest is a helper, a servant, almost, like assisting the individual to communicate directly with God. But you shall, and again, they do it again in line 10, then he shall offer the second for a burnt offering according to the ordinance, and the priest shall make atonement for him for the sin which he has committed, and he shall be forgiven. And that's so different from the Hebrew, which is the priest will atone on him and nislach, and he, he's pardoned, right? And it goes on like that. And the remainder shall be for the priest. And then 14, the Lord said to Moses, if anyone commits a breach of faith and sins unwittingly in any of the holy things of the Lord, he shall bring, etc. It is a guilt offering. He shall also make restitution for what he has done amiss in the holy thing. Now that's different from make it whole, right? Make it perfect. And again, they keep repeating this. The priest shall make atonement for him, which is not correct, with the ram of the guilt offering, and he shall be forgiven. I mean, the priest just doesn't have that role in the Hebrew. It's just the individual getting, doing the right thing, bringing Yahweh, this beautiful sheep without blemish, sacrificing it with the help of the priest, and being forgiven, being pardoned, making it right, making it whole. I really hope you hear the difference. I don't need to keep going. We've been talking for an hour. You get the idea. Those are the highlights I wanted to call your attention to of what I see as mistranslations in the Revised Standard Version. But I really hope you hear how kind of technical and distant the Revised Standard Version is compared with the Hebrew, and of course, compared with the 1560 Geneva Bible. So that the bottom line, and we have almost 3,000 people listening, which is so nice on a Saturday in springtime, early spring, right before Passover, at the end of Passover, the very beginning of Easter. This is what I want you to take away, like nislach, 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 nislach. God's right there waiting, lislach, right, to pardon. But you got to do the thing, right? You got to do the thing. You got to return the sweater. You got to, if you overcharged your client, you got to let your client know. You have to, apologize if you spoke harshly to someone, if you, so serious, if you swore to a lie, if you so bad, right? You have to tell the truth, right? You have to, bring that thing that you love and offer it up, because it's a real relationship, right? Not because God is mean. He doesn't want your sheep. I don't think he doesn't need your, turtle doves, but he really needs to make up with you. And when we do these things that we think are little, but that are really big, the lies, the cheating, the bad math, sharp business practices, saying things that aren't true, it really hurts him, right? And it estranges us from him. And he's saying that over and over in the Hebrew Bible. And he wants to, be in a state of intimacy with us and make up with us. And so this is how he set it out. Again, not for him, I think, but for us, because we're human and we need these rituals to kind of get a grip and real, and reckon with ourselves, right? All right. Let's see. Where we have a lot of comments. I want to thank you all. Michael Semrock says, good work. Thank you, Michael Semrock. Now, Netaslabi says, if I was silent and didn't warn people, I believe I would be guilty and blood would be on my hands. I think that's a very timely observation, especially with what we've all been through over the last 5 years now, right? A lot of people stood by and swore falsely, or let other people swear falsely and didn't step up to, demand the truth. And this Leviticus 5 and 6 says that is not an option. That's just, Leviticus 5 and 6 says you can't participate in a lie in any way, right? No matter how much you think, oh, well, I'm just being quiet, or I know it's wrong, but I'm not saying anything. Not an option, says God, not an option, right? You got to atone for that. You're messed up. You messed up if you did that. And so many people did that. Doctors did it. Hospitals did it. Journalists did it. Our public officials did it. It's not okay, right? They need to, metaphorically slaughter some turtle doves and some sheep. Or whatever the equivalent is of looking into themselves. God is not okay with that. Like, we just have to know that. By the same token, saying I didn't know, like this came up a little bit in Leviticus 4, I believe. But right now, so many people are saying, the New York Times is saying, oh, well, we didn't know, right? We didn't know that we shouldn't have shut down the lab leak speculation. We didn't know that the vaccines were bad for us. We didn't know that, the numbers for COVID deaths were manipulated. There's so much we didn't know. We didn't know masks didn't work. It's not okay, right? It's not okay. God right here is saying clearly, not okay. Even if you didn't know, even if you participated in uncleanness unwittingly, it is your responsibility to get clean. And that includes with your fellow human being, right? Making it right with the people you lied to, making it right with the people you fired, for no good reason, making it right with the people, that you shunned at your Thanksgiving table, right? The people from whom you're estranged in your family. It's not okay that you didn't know. God says clearly, too bad. You know now, right? Make it right. You still effed up, right? You still blew it. I'm trying to avoid saying anything naughty, especially in the context of talking about God's point of view. But it's, not knowing is not an exoneration, right? That said, when you make it right, nislach. And then Howard Turner says, it looks like you're talking about something scientific you don't understand. Would you like to quote from the Bible? I don't really understand what you just said there because I've been reading the Bible, but interesting. And Janet Hines says, Amen. And Janet Hines says the sacrificed in the Old Testament are pictures of what the Christ would be and do. One sacrifice for all has been made. So that is definitely the Orthodox Christian view. And many Christians read the Hebrew Bible kind of, what is the right word? Like preamble, right? There are many kind of foreshadowings in Isaiah, especially, but throughout the Hebrew Bible, and here in Leviticus, that Christians will interpret as, see, this is allegedly talking about the sacrifice of sheep or a lamb or a ram, but it's really foreshadowing the sacrifice of Yeshua, of Jesus. And she says, anything that separates us from our God is sin. That's well said. I would say that's well said, but I would add the resonance of the words for sin that we heard just now, because they're not quite literally sin in English in the Christian post-Catholic context. Transgression, error, all of those kind of much more everyday, and more, I think, manageable, less terrifying. I'm not trying to, diminish anything. I just, for me, right, it's helpful to know that all day long, being a human being, I can mess up. I mean, I will, and that I can correct it, and that, right away, and immediately, and that God has kind of set out ways to correct it, that it's not I'm not helpless, right? To me, that's really, really useful. All right, guys, we have over 3,000 people joining us live. That's really sweet and nice. Like, who would have thought that we'd have a lovely, healthy crowd on a Saturday, almost a Saturday night in beautiful springtime. And Sophia Smith, I'll just read this before I go. As above, so below. In this world, its ignorance of the law isn't recognized as an excuse in courts. That's right. Ignorance isn't an excuse. We're all responsible for what we do. So I hope that has been helpful. I know that it's, kind of a serious couple of chapters about how we, how we're supposed to manage our lives in relation to God with our everyday messes. But Matthew M says, I like how you applied the lessons to present day. Thank you, Matthew. If you guys give me that feedback, I'll try to do that a little bit more in my chats, because I think we're supposed to apply these things to every day. I think that's the point of God giving us these rules and these books. They're not just about, a bunch of people we'll never meet wandering around in the desert trying to figure out tribal law. They're about us looking at our own lives, our own fibs, the massive state fibs, cultural fibs, grossness of all kinds, false witnesses of all kinds, messing up of all kinds. We were all there at Sinai, as they say, as Jews say, at this time of year, we're all present and we're all responsible. But the beautiful part of that is that we're all present. We all matter. God really, really, really cares about the choices that each of us makes and is always waiting, nislach. So I hope you have a beautiful, 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 beautiful end of Pesach and beginning of Easter. And I will see you very soon with Leviticus 7. You can find me on dailyclout.io. Please support us there. We live and die on your subscriptions and donations. It takes a whole team of people to get these videos out and to do the independent reporting, to bring you bill cam and communities and legisector, so you can follow bills, draft bills, stop bad bills, start good bills. We really need your help and support with that. And then over on Substack, you can subscribe. Please do if you like these readings. Again, it's not just me, it's editors, social media people, hosting, production. We need your help. So please subscribe at my Substack, which is called Outspoken. I'll be starting a live Substack podcast. Very exciting. Substack is featuring it. So I'll be bringing these readings to that as well, to a larger audience. And read along. And happy Pesach, blessed Easter, and we will just keep going. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. See you soon.